Hi students, welcome back. So in the previous video I explained about the inheritance, what is an inheritance and what is the base class and the derived class, and the examples of the base class and the derived class, and I also explains why we are using inheritance and when to use the inheritance. Okay, so this is an inheritance example I explained in the previous video. So this is a class vehicle, this is a base class, and these are the derived class. This derived class will inherit the properties of the base class. Okay, how it is inheriting? Because class bus is use the fuel amount, capacity, apply brakes, whereas class car is also use these three methods, whereas class truck is also use these three methods. So this is an inheritance. Let us see the class hierarchy. So actually class hierarchy means it is acquiring the properties from one class to another class. Okay, so different base classes and different derived classes will inherit the properties of one class to another class. That you call it as a class hierarchy. So let us take two examples for these class hierarchies. First is a community member class hierarchy. So if you take the community member class hierarchy, how it will represent diagrammatically. So this is the first is the community member is a base class. So community member is a base class. So this community member inheriting the properties means it giving the properties of this base class to derived class. So employee inherit the properties of the community, whereas a student may be a community member, or alumnus is also a community member. Okay, so again this employee may be a faculty or a staff. Faculty or a staff. Okay, again this faculty may be a administrator or a teacher. Or a teacher. Okay, so here I am explaining these are the hierarchies. So this is the first hierarchy. Okay, and this is the second hierarchy, third, fourth, like that. Means it inheriting the properties. Here the employee, student, alumnus inherits the properties of community members, whereas faculty, staff inherit the properties of the employee, and here the administrator, teacher inherits the properties of the faculty. So this is one type of the class hierarchy. So let us see another example. So suppose if you take the shape class hierarchy. Okay, so let us take the shape class hierarchy. So what is this? First, the base class should be shape. So the shape may be a two-dimensional or three-dimensional. Two-dimensional, or it may be a three-dimensional. Okay, so two-dimensional inherits the properties of the shape, whereas three-dimensional inherits the properties of the shape. So the two-dimensional may be a circle, or it may be a square, or it may be a triangle, like that. Whereas three-dimensional is, let us take cube. Okay, so this is a class hierarchy. One class, another class, another class. So these are the different classes. So it shows the relationship between these all classes. Here what is the relationship between one class inherits the properties of another class, and this class inherits the properties of another class. So this you call it as a class hierarchy. So shape is base class and these two are the derived class. Here these two are the derived classes. For this is a base class, and for this is a base class. Okay, the circle it goes like this. So these are the derived classes, and here it goes to the base classes. Okay, now let us see Actually, this inheritance, you use this type of inheritance in the some access specifiers. I already explained about the access specifiers or modifiers, means access specifiers about private, public and protected. So in inheritance also we use this mode, private, public, protected. So you call it as a modes of inheritance. Modes of inheritance. So this public, private, protected, you call it as a modes of inheritance. If you are using those access specifiers in inheritance, while you're acquiring the properties, while you're inheriting the properties. So when you'll inherit the properties, whenever it should be a public, okay, whenever it should be a protected. So if it is a private, you can't inherit the properties of the base class. Okay, so let us see. Suppose this is a base class. So in this base class, I declared the data variables as a private or protected or public. Okay, so let us say take three derived classes. So those three derived classes are the private derived class, public derived class and protected mode. So first, this is the derived class. So that derived class is in private mode. So private, protected, public. Okay, so I'm taking another derived class. This derived class is in public mode. Public mode. So here also I declared some variables as private, protected and public. Okay, so now take another derived class which is a protected mode. So that derived class is in protected mode. So there I declared some variables as private, protected and public. Okay, so now I'm explaining about the modes of inheritance. So if the variables that are declared as a private, protected, public in the base class, which variables I can access in the derived class. Okay, so which variables we can inherit the properties of the base class in which access specifier. So if your base class is private, so no derived class will acquire the properties of the base class because base class is private. So don't keep the methods as a private. So if you provide a methods or a variables private in the base class, so that will be used within the class only, or else the friend function, if you use it in the friend function. So now let us see. If the base class data member is a protected, then it should, in derived class also it should be protected. Okay, so if the base class member is a public, in the derived class it is also protected. Coming to the private. So if your base class values will be the protected, while it comes to the derived class private mode, it should be compulsory private. Here it is protected means compulsory, here it should be private. In the same way, when the base class is a public, when it comes to the derived class private mode, it should be compulsory private. So whenever the derived class is private mode means all the variables that are declared in the derived class should be private. Now coming to the public. So when it is protected base class, derived class is also protected. Whenever it is in public, here is also public, because both the items in base class and derived class are declared as a public mode. Okay, so it may be public means if it is protected means here is also protected. If it is public, here it is also public. So this is the modes of inheritance. So when you're using the inheritance concept. So let us just draw the, I just give the modes of inheritance in tabular form. Then you will clearly understand. So whatever I represent in the diagram, that I am writing here, the modes of inheritance. Okay, so here I am writing the derived classes. So in the previous example, I take the three derived classes. One is public, private, protected. Here I am writing it in the tabular form instead of diagram. Derived class, and this is the derived class. So that may be a public, private derived class, and protected derived class. So if I take the base class here, so for the base class, the item should be the values is a private, protected, and public. Okay, so now here I am writing, if the base class is private, if in the derived class is in public, it should not be inherited. Why it is not inherited? Because the base class is private. Whenever the base class is private, you can't inherit the properties of the base class because it declares already private. So it is accessed within the class only. So here also not inherited. Even though it is a private, it not inherited. Not inherited. Okay. So if the base class items are protected, in the derived class public also it is protected, and the derived class private, it should be private, and derived class protected. Coming to public, if the base class items are public, in the derived class also it is public. In the derived class, if it is private, compulsory it should be a private. Even though the base class items are public, when it comes to the derived class, it makes it as a private. And here protected. Okay, so this is the modes of inheritance. So different modes of inheritance, that is the public mode, private mode, and the protected mode. So in the next video, I will explain about, so let us see the benefits of inheritance. So benefits means just advantages of inheritance. Benefits of inheritance. So what are the benefits of inheritance? So first one is the most important one is the reusability. Why you are using this inheritance? Because of reusability of code. And next one is the size of code is reduced. Size of code is reduced. How it is reducing? Instead of using in every class, only in one class we are declaring the complete size. So the benefits of inheritance is reusability of code, size of code is reduced, and it follows the transitive property. Transitivity property. Like if B derived from A and C derived from B, then C also derived from A. Means it is following the transitive property. So these are the benefits of the inheritance. So in the next video, I will explain the different types of inheritance. There are altogether 5 types: single, multiple, multi-level, okay, hybrid, hierarchical. So different types of inheritance will be there. So those we will see in the next video. Thank you.